Hi, I'm Erin Lundy.
And I'm Madeline Walden, and this is
Aquarium of the Podcific,
a podcast brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, Southern California's largest aquarium.
Join us as we learn alongside the experts in animal care, conservation, and more.
Welcome back to Aquarium of the Podcific. I'm Madeline Walden, the aquarium's digital content and community manager.
And I'm Erin Lundy, newly the manager of conservation initiatives here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.
Live audience.
Wow. We did, however, record
what's
some
your
of
job?
these manager of conservation initiatives. Thank you. We did, however, record some of these episodes a little bit ago. So if you hear my title change, I did not get re-demoted. We recorded this episode a little bit later. However, more excitingly than that, we want to talk about one of the aquarium's best, most favorite, everyone asks about it animals today. And those are
Axolotl.
axolotls.
Woo!
Axolotls are probably the most popular animal at the aquarium currently, and
they're very popular in popular culture right now too. So it's one of those animals that people come in specifically looking for that animal, and we're like, yeah,
it's like penguins, otters, axolotls, and I feel like and sometimes sharks, sometimes other animals, but
they're up there.
They are probably the most requested animals right now, and I think that a lot of video games and pop culture has a lot to do with that. But you know what? I'm okay with it because
It's
amphibian
getting people
love.
to fall in love with them.
Heck yeah. Amphibian love. We do love when people love their amphibians. So today we are going to be talking to America, who's one of our animal care specialists. She takes care of our axolotls as well as actually all of our amphibians around the aquarium. But her first and foremost love is, of course, our axolotls.
And you guys work really closely together because you've been building this new gallery, which we are so excited. It is, as of this episode's release, it is officially open, froggily opened.
Oh, froggily. It's been a froggily open.
It's been a froggily open, and it's called Frogs
Facing a Changing World.
Perfect.
Really meant to highlight some of the threats to amphibians worldwide and also just showcase how diverse and beautiful and amazing these animals are. I hope that all of the exhibits that we've built kind of highlight that, and I hope people come in and they enjoy them. They are colorful. They are beautiful. All the plants are real in every exhibit, which is crazy, except for our mountain yellow-legged frogs, but that's because we needed something
Which
to
we're going to have
sanitize.
mountain yellow-legged frogs?
Correct. For the first time ever on our exhibit space, we will have our mountain yellow-legged frogs out and about, and people can see them. My favorite part about them is that they are actually going to be the releasable animals that are out on display.
Cool.
So if at some point later in the summer that exhibit is empty, they went out to the wild.
Yeah.
Like, what a great story.
You guys got to come visit and pick out the next big chicken. If you know from last season. You have to pick out the new big chicken.
Yeah, we'll name her something else. We'll talk medium goose, something like that. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this episode and learn a little bit about axolotls.
And come see the new gallery.
Now. It's open.
Now. Welcome back to Aquarium of the Podcific. We are joined today with animal care specialist America Sahagun. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
What are we going to talk about today, Erin Lundy?
We are going to talk about one of our favorite animals, one of just general...
The world's It's so
favorite.
popular right now, this animal.
I think it is the animal we get asked the most about at the aquarium. And while our amphibian gallery has been under construction for a brand new opening
I
this
want to talk to you guys about that.
Oh, yeah.
Memorial Day weekend.
It's so close.
But
What's happening?
because these animals have been off exhibit for quite some time, we have been getting inundated with requests on when can we see them again? Where are they? And of course, those animals are our axolotls.
Yup. That's it. Yeah, those are it.
What is an axolotl?
So a lot of people think that they're fish, but they're actually amphibians. So that is a salamander who has really, really cool looking antennas, but that's actually their gills. And so it's really cool to just see, new generations just coming up and being
super fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly.
Yeah, and just being super excited about these animals. And it's really cool just to see how these like axolotls are really like a staple to the aquarium. Even though they're amphibians, they are aquatic, and it's awesome just to be able to like showcase that and also just like put in that really strong and important message of conservation just because how endangered they are. So yeah, that's like a really, really exciting thing.
I'm so excited to learn all about them
exactly.
today. I jumped ahead a little bit. I guess I should ask you about yourself. Will you tell us a little bit about your role here at the aquarium and how long you've been here?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is America. Other people call me USA. Just kidding.
I do.
You can call
Miss
me
America.
Miss America. You can call me Lady Liberty.
Yeah.
You can call me
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, I am an animal care specialist, but I do definitely specialize on amphibians. I specifically really, really, really enjoy working with the axolotls, and I can't thank Erin enough for trusting me. I remember just kind of cornering her one day and being like, I love axolotls, and then I just kind of like hit her with like a bunch of like facts, and she was like, oh my god.
So what animals were you working with before?
So I
axolotls?
still work with the same animals, which is the birds and the mammals. And with amphibians, when I was a volunteer, that's when I started to like be very intrigued by just the range of amphibians that we had. But the axolotls were just something that I was always super interested in.
They're so neat.
Yeah, and so I was very, very intrigued from day one. And yeah, the rest was history. I started, working with them closely and learning from all staff. And shout out to Frankie. She's listening.
She's listening.
She is.
for sure.
She probably is. She taught me a couple of things on like their water changes. And so I was able to not only learn about these animals, but also the water quality. Like that's another thing. There's so many things that as a bird and mammal person that takes care of those animals, you don't really deal with like the water quality as much. And so now it was like a totally different world that I was like submerged in. I mean, it was kind of like another side of my job that I was very, very intrigued because I had to talk to Aquarius and I was like, hey, like, I'm sorry, but like, what is that? Or like, what's the ammonia and like, what do you mean about this? And what do you mean about, and so I was always asking questions until I was able to really understand. And I was just very thankful for that because thank God that our water quality lab was very helpful in that sense. And so every time we would give like water samples, they would really walk me down with like everything that they test on.
So cool.
Yes. And so it's amazing. I like till this day, I'm not shy about asking those questions because I know that sooner or later somebody else will come in and, help with this awesome, project that we're doing. Or just in general taking care of our animals, especially with the axolotls. And they're so, they're very, very sensitive with the water that they're in because they do sometimes
breathe it.
Yeah, they absorb from their skin. They're super, super sensitive. So
we talked a little bit about last season, kind of the differences between exhibits, between an outdoor exhibit that has our sea lions in it. It can fluctuate in not the quality of the water is like not the right way to say it, but
the salinity, the parameters,
Yes.
all
Exactly.
of those things, definitely.
it's a sea lion is not as sensitive as an axolotl. A sea lion is not.
I mean,
breathing
emotionally?
Emotionally,
yeah.
I've met Parker.
Have you? Yeah.
He's
Have you met
emotional.
Kaya?
Very emotional. I think it's really funny that you mentioned that because so much of our team, especially on the bird and mammal side, and now our team is bird, mammals, and amphibians, and so we're taking care of this huge range of animals,
Right.
most of which do not necessarily matter as much what these individual water parameters look like, whereas when you think about an aquarium, you think of saltwater fish and corals and things that are a little bit more sensitive to specific things being in their water.
Right.
And so learning from the Aquarius and learning an entirely new skill set when you're starting to work with amphibians that matters a lot more,
Yes.
and understanding those parameters matters a lot more, was kind of the steepest learning curve, I think, for everyone kind of taking over
Yes.
learning frogs. But it's been a really good journey, and definitely we have a really cool team that helps us on all sides. And my very first introduction to America was because she had been assigned to help us put away some of our live food order from the amphibian area. And the live foods for the amphibians is just bugs. And every week, America was so excited to put away bugs. And partially, I think that you like bugs, but I think it was more just because that was a good opportunity to be around some really cool animals and ask questions. And then if you were doing this task that, to be honest, is sometimes a less desirable task because it's crickets everywhere. Like, it's just
Everywhere.
madness.
So many.
Remember last season I had a cricket in my my shirt.
Yeah,
'cause I-
It happens. It
So-
definitely
It happens.
does.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so America was always like, "Can I put away the bugs today?" And you're like, "Yeah, you can." But
You know,
then
yeah, and I'm so sorry to interrupt
you're
you,
fine.
but this it was so funny because that was my thing, and I would definitely like go back to how I was taught to do it. I'm gonna give another shout out to Sarah. She was another one that would tell me about the little crystal, the water crystals. So she would tell me about like how much to pour into like the 1 weeks and the 3 weeks. She would tell me like just pour a little bit because maybe they could drown. And
Yeah.
so ever since that just kind of stuck in my head. And then like I treat them like they're babies, you know.
everything's
Everything's
a
a baby.
Even the crickets we feed other animals.
Yeah.
But when we're getting food for our axolotls, to circle back, what are they mostly eating here at the aquarium?
They are eating earthworms. So earthworms are already a very nutritional, like balanced diet that they don't really need anything more other than that. At least in our experience, we have obviously axolotls do eat some pellets that are already, they have a bunch of other things included in them, but for us here, we really like the ability to feed them live foods, especially just because axolotls are very aware of what's moving around them. And so I really love making sure that when I feed them, there's some sort of movement so that way they could kind of
little
like
wiggle.
hunt it. Yeah. And it's so awesome because axolotls actually they don't have like teeth. They have some sort of like suction. And it's really, really funny because they almost like thrash it around. It's like insane. Like it's not going anywhere, you know, but they just thrash it around.
Little
And
alligator, like
exactly, yeah. And it's amazing to just see them. It's so funny to see their personality really come out, especially when they're hungry, because they're so aware. Like where you move, they move, and they know exactly where like what's going on. Even if I open up like the actual like warm container, they already know like it's right there.
They can see the worms.
See it, yeah. Even if like the tongs are out, they're like, oh yeah, it's coming.
time.
Yeah, it's time.
We've had adult axolotls, which primarily are eating earthworms,
Yes.
and then recently we've had some juvenile ones, and so we've had to offer some smaller food items, right?
Yeah. So that's when bloodworms come in. These guys are not alive, by the way. These guys are bloodworms are frozen, and so we take them out. We put them in a little bit of RO water, and then kind of let it defrost. And then once they're in a better state, then we just kind of offer it to the little baby axolotls. They eat it, and then sometimes when they do get older, we have to chop up the worms and Erin hates it. Like I already see her face. She hates it.
I was like, we're talking about the chopped up
It's
worms.
just yeah. I get some scissors and I have to like
my gosh.
I have to cut it like in a very, very small piece so that way they're able to digest it and also not
little-
create like an obstruction or anything.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about axolotls in the wild. Where are they found?
So the wild axolotls are from Lake Xochimilco. This is in the city of Mexico, and so this lake is a very, very, very really long lake, and it's known for its cold waters, and it's also known for its it's not strong, like the currents are not strong at all. It's a very mellow river, and so that river itself, that lake, it's a perfect thing for axolotls to be able to thrive upon. Yeah.
Not think that they're cold water. I don't know why I've
It's-
always assumed
yeah.
that they're warm water.
I think
No,
people
they're
know
actually-
they're tropical,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh, warm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's tropical, but no, these waters are very cold. They range from like, I want to say maybe like 60 to 64. I know it's below 70, so it's
Too
cold.
cold for me.
Yeah,
And they're only found at this lake.
only
in
at
the
this
whole
lake.
world.
Yes.
What? How? Why? Why? It's just that perfect. They
It's
just
that perfect.
adapted?
I know that axolotl means water dog. Axolotls were named after Solotl, the Aztec god of fire and lightning, who could take on a form of a salamander. Solotl was also associated with dogs, and adult is an ancient Aztec word for water. So axolotl is sometimes translated as water dog.
Do you think they're dog-like?
Yeah,
Puppy-like
I feel like
water
they are.
puppies?
Erin says no,
You guys
but
take
I
care of all
definitely
the water puppies. I feel like the pinnipeds are water
Seals and
puppies.
sea lions,
Yeah.
water
yeah,
puppies.
honestly.
Well, that's incredible. I think that's really great info to have. It's such a unique animal. Like I just can't get over of how I think it's probably one of the most unique animals that we have at our aquarium,
I think
or maybe just exists.
Well, I think
What do you
what's
think?
really funny is that axolotls are this like very culturally significant, both in sort of like pop culture now and also like in history. Although they are a relatively new species, I think they evolved, they think, in the last 10,000 years, which is really interesting to think about that this is newish to us and that they're evolved from tiger salamanders. But the part that I find funny is that there are animals that retain their juvenile characteristics and kind of look like axolotls. They're just way less cute. And so I don't think they get the airtime.
Like what animal?
Well, so don't, if you're gonna be creeped out by it, don't Google it. But there are these animals called amphiumas, and there's one toad, I think, and two-toed amphiumas, and they are pretty similar to axolotls. Here, I'm gonna find a picture
Yeah,
and
I
show
gotta
you.
see this, please.
A little bit gross you out. Two-toed amphiuma.
Are they gross?
They
They're
are
not
fine.
cute.
And I
I'm
guess
picturing like a less cute axolotl.
they kind of are. I guess these guys don't have the external gills, but
No, I think it's cute.
and there's sirens too.
they look like
Oh,
axolotls without the
sirens
gills.
are crazy.
Here, let me find you this.
They kind of remind me of what are those little sock puppet looking guys that we
the
had?
Sicilians.
Yes.
they do. Here's the sirens. So there's like lesser sirens, greater sirens.
This is like a long axolotl.
But yeah, siren is like also just the long, creepy form of it. There's the really creepy one are called cave olms, and those are upsetting to look at in just the creepiest way. So hold on.
There's some that are also called mud puppies. These
Oh,
mud
yeah.
puppies they're salamanders and they're almost like hellbenders, but except they have gills like axolotls, so it just looks like a really huge
They're
axolotl.
really cool.
The cave olm?
Yeah.
You think that looks cool?
Wait,
thought
I
it
want to
was
see
cool.
it.
They look like some. Okay, that is the creepiest thing I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
I don't know about
Look
that.
at this.
I think it's cool. I
So-
like it.
Olms are very similar. They look almost exactly like someone sat on and then pulled
Yeah.
an axolotl into a very long straw-like shape, and they're cool. But I think that
Axel has the cuteness going for them. That's
Yeah,
why they're a
for
little
sure.
more popular
Yeah,
than
I
the
think so,
cave
too.
olm.
they have the. Also, they're not called cave olms.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are a couple of different species that retain those sort of juvenile characteristics for longer in their life, and that's what axolotls do, right? And
Yes.
they're salamanders, but most salamanders are on land and look sort of more lizard-like than an
Yeah.
axolotl. And so why is it that our axolotls have gills and external gill structures and are aquatic as opposed to other salamanders that are maybe out and about?
Well, these guys never leave their metamorphosis stage. They always stay babies, and they could reach their like sexual maturity at that like status, which is like it's kind of like maturing. It's like a butterfly maturing, no, like a caterpillar maturing, except he's not turning
just
into
stay caterpillars.
Yeah, they
They
just
just
stay
stay
caterpillars.
caterpillars.
That's
Yeah,
a good.
it's like they never grow into
And so
like
they
a butterfly.
look
It's just a
pretty much.
caterpillar.
Do they hatch from an egg?
Yes, they do. They have thousands of eggs. That's the thing. It's a lot of eggs that they eventually, like, if they do breed, it's a lot of eggs. And so they literally look the same. They have little gills, and they all have like a very it's like it's not long because they're babies, but they just look like really small axolotls, and it's
cute.
so cute. Yeah, it's very, very cute to see it. But this could definitely, the thing about axolotls is that they do have to be bred with something that's not related to them. Because if they are related to them, then genetically they are going to be messed up. I know that some sort of axolotls, they do become less, like maybe like their gills won't
Some
look
sort
as
of
best.
deformity,
Yes,
or just
yes,
health issues in
exactly.
general. So you want we'd like to diversify the species
exactly.
as much as possible. So
I think it's been interesting too with axolotls that are under human care. Like you mentioned, they're critically endangered species.
They
Like
are.
there are not that many axolotls out there. But then you go to the pet store, not here in California, hopefully, but elsewhere where they are legal to own as pets, and you'll just see axolotls everywhere.
So many.
and you're just
Yeah.
like, what? There's pink,
So
there's
many.
yellow, there's ones with glowing green eyes. There's all
It's
kinds of different
amazing,
ones.
yeah.
So why are they still critically endangered if every pet store is selling axolotls like crazy?
So those axolotls are genetically bred, so they have these awesome colors. But in the wild, they're definitely much bigger, and they are adaptable to whatever they have in that lake. So they could definitely adapt to the temperature that you know, lake is potentially. That's what they, okay, if you ever, like, let's say you release that pink axolotl, right? That axolotl has zero chances of actually surviving just because it's not going to be able to camouflage.
It's pink.
Exactly. It's going to be right there. There's already so many herons that's like one of their number one
their
predators. Yeah. And so that's,
I didn't know that.
yeah, herons. Herons, yeah. So yeah, it's the herons actually are like one of the main predators, and then they also have to put into consideration of like pollution and just like drought and all of that. So axolotls have to be a certain color, which are that you're going to be able to find them, which is a darker color. There's different types of morphs. So I wanna dig into those morphs.
Yeah, please
so there are about, I want to say maybe like 10 morphs, 10 types of morphs. Yes. And one of the main ones that I really enjoy are the wild types. Those are going to be the ones that you'll be able to see in the wild. Not as big, of course, but the color. So it's going to be a very darker color. They are going to have spots that resemble like a rock, which is awesome.
Cool.
Yes,
Asymmetric
super cool.
camouflage.
And then which is the pink axolotls. Those pink axolotls they're leucistic.
I think the totally pink with no color in the eyes are albino. And then there's leucistic that has black eye. Like there's just some
exactly.
different types with a little pigment
And that's
or
it.
no
Yes,
pigment.
exactly.
Those
And
are kind of like the character axolotls, right?
Those
When
are
you
the
think of an
character
axolotl,
axolotls,
you're
yeah.
thinking of the pink one with the red eyes or
Yes.
with the black eyes.
yeah,
And they're really cool.
they're so
But
cool.
do pink axolotls exist in the wild?
No.
So it's
that's
a specifically bred
it's a specifically bred.
trait.
Maybe
Exactly.
like one, you know,
Wait,
like, maybe
yeah, like
he's like a
it's
mutant
Maybe
guy.
one.
It's
He's
an
like, I
albino, it's
survived
something
out of
that
spite.
It's where they all started.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
fascinating.
what I also know is that they've hybridized axolotl DNA with tiger salamander DNA to create more color morphs and to create more types of like pet axolotls. And so we can't just release the ones that we have under human care. It's sort of like how some people are like, okay, dogs and wolves are technically the same species, can crossbreed. You're not just going to release a chihuahua and be like, we saved the gray wolf. You know, like
Yeah.
that's a very different
Yeah, it's so
animal.
different.
The different DNA. We wouldn't want that hybridizing and then just being out there.
There's no
no
way,
offense,
yeah.
chihuahuas, but I do think that that is a salient point of like, we can't. We've done so much to like alter what this organism
Yes.
is that they're basically not even the same animal anymore.
They're not. No, their diet is totally different.
Really?
Yes. And one of the things that I didn't know that they were able to actually, eat was mealworms, just because I know that they have an exoskeleton that they won't be able to actually digest. That would possibly create an obstruction. And so I know that wild axolotls, they even eat crustaceans. And so it's
Do
interesting.
they have teeth?
No, they have some sort of suction, but I think they're able to digest it. Again, these wild axolotls,
yeah.
one, they're much bigger. Because I know regular axolotls, they could go up to maybe 8 inches, maybe about 10. But wild axolotls, I mean, I've seen in articles that they could reach up to like maybe 12 inches.
Wow.
So 12
didn't
to
know
like,
that.
yeah, 12 to
guys.
maybe 13. I don't know, but they're a little bit more bigger and very robust.
And they're just hardier. They're
Yes.
wild
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah.
I think they
They're
also
built different.
they're built
They're
different.
built different.
I think they eat rocks and gravel and stuff, sort of like birds do, and they have like rocks in their gizzard. They don't have a gizzard, but they'll just keep those rocks in their stomach and use it to grind up those
grind
shelled
those up.
items. Whereas here, we wouldn't feed them rocks
No.
that they
They're
can
delicate.
ingest because
No, we baby
They're
them
pink.
so much too. And when I say we, it's me.
we baby
Yeah,
them.
I have them with like the finest type of sand, just because if they do ingest it, they'll be able to just pass it. Yeah, and it's really interesting just to see how awesome these guys adapt to anything that we put in their tank. So like anything that would enrich them is very very really really fascinating for me to see. I know that one of our axolotls really likes plants, and today I was actually
Which one?
Darla loves yeah Darlo, actually it's a male.
We found
It just
out.
happens all the time,
Darlie.
and so Darlo loves plants, and today I have this little tank right next to theirs, and you could see right through it, and I'm pretty sure he was able to see it, but I was like arranging some of the plants and he just went directly to it. I've never seen him go so fast, and he was just looking at it, and I'm like, yeah buddy,
He's ready.
yeah,
this is
I'm like,
for
you're
you.
up for it. Yeah.
That's
And
so
it's really
cool.
interesting to see that.
Oh, I would love to learn more about the axolotls that we have here at the aquarium and their personalities, would you say that they have their own little unique
Oh my
quirks,
God,
or are they
so
just kind of like
many.
there?
No, 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 no. They have so
Please
much.
tell me more.
Yeah, they have.
First and foremost, how many axolotls do we have?
We have about 11 axolotls.
Wow.
Yes.
Are they all going to be on display in the new gallery?
I wish.
Some are
No.
going to be secret axolotls.
No, they're so we have geriatric axolotls, meaning
Yeah.
they're older, and so axolotls are able to live for a range of like 10 to 15 years. And so the ones that we have already are pushing that. They're pushing that limit. So I
You guys are
definitely
giving them the best care. Here at
Yeah,
the aquarium,
definitely. They
definitely
are in the
elongating their
retirement home.
lifespan. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in retirement.
Yeah, they're in the retirement home. And so we make sure that they are in the best possible, care that they could have, just because I'm not saying that they are in their last days, but they can
They're old for
definitely
axolotls, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, so we have three geriatric axolotls. We have 2 juveniles. We also have 3 babies. Yeah, very, very cute. And then we also have 1, 2, I
3
think
more
that's it, 3 more
confiscations.
confiscations. Yeah, the ones that are in they just got out of quarantine, which is really awesome. And these guys are really cool. Their morphs are awesome, which is one of the honestly like the coolest morphs that I've seen so far, because he is a melanistic axolotl, but he has green eyes, and that has to do because of the genetic. I forget it's a GFP, exactly. And that it's what makes them glow in the dark. And so with that, yeah,
They glow in the dark?
They glow in the dark, dude. Yeah.
Just her eyes.
Just her eyes.
You know, she's stunning. It's the GFP is the green fluorescent protein, which is the same
Yeah.
thing that is found in glowfish. And so
Yes.
if you're
And
ever
jellies,
like,
right?
yes, exactly. And so because people have not modified the axolotls enough, they also went through and they intentionally spliced DNA of these proteins that could then generate this glowing green protein within the axolotls. But because she is melanistic, which means she is totally dark everywhere else, it really only shows through her eyes. And so she looks like this hulking giant black axolotl with these like laser green eyes. She's really cool.
She's super cool.
Do you find that these modifications to their DNA affects their lifespan, their health at all?
I don't know if it does or
Yeah,
doesn't.
me either, honestly.
So
I think
fascinating.
I think it all comes down to like how well their water perimeter is, because I think that's something that is very, very important to them, how well their diet is. Because I know some axolotls do get very robust and they live very happy, and some they could be living the same life, but if maybe their water perimeters aren't the best, it's something that, and it all comes down with like the
Their
temp
care.
and everything. Yeah. So it's great to have them here at the aquarium, but as pets they require so much care, and I know a lot of parents would want them to have want their kids to have a pet like an axolotl, especially not here in California, but in other states. But it's a lot of care.
Yeah.
It's a lot of care. You have to make sure the temp is right, the water perimeters, and I mean
They're delicate.
they're very delicate. Yeah.
They get
But-
stressed easily.
Yes,
honestly,
exactly.
same. I think to kind of circle back, I think that maybe it would be interesting to. I think that those color morphs and those different genetic variations might not be advantageous for an animal that was going to go back in the wild, like we talked
Sure,
about
you
earlier.
don't want to have your eyes glowing.
Exactly. And I'm sure that there are, not to keep comparing it to dogs, but I'm sure there are some modifications that we don't know if they sort of artificially shorten or expand their life
Exactly,
expectancy.
yeah.
Like, I don't know if we know enough about that, but
Yes.
certainly even like the albinism and things, like I can tell those axolotls have poorer eyesight than the ones that do not have that, because so much light gets in through their eyes that they can't see very well. And so as cute as they are, just know that if your axolotl is a true albino, which means that its eyes have no pigment whatsoever and they can either be gold or pink, they probably can't see the best. And so
Yes.
really bright light can actually be really detrimental for them, because they're like, oh, it's so bright.
So
Yeah,
much, like, they have no way to
exactly.
filter it.
Yeah. So no eyelids, no anything, just
Nothing.
straight eyes.
Just vibes.
Just vibes.
Just vibes
Just
and
vibes.
eyes
Yeah.
directly
Eyes and
exposed to the
vibes.
light.
Yeah.
So funny. I think I interrupted you talking about their personalities.
Yeah, I
Got
was
a
gonna
little
circle back
off.
to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Excuse
circle
me.
back.
Yeah. So we have Darla, which we got them a year ago, and they were very off the bat. It was just like their personality showed off. Darla was very she wasn't aggressive, but she was just
Hungry.
yeah, hungry.
An endless pit of worms.
Okay, I know what that's like.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Anemo was more Nemo was a little bit more calm, and also because he was smaller and without an arm. So because again, axolotls don't have great eyesight. They are basically kind of blind, and so anything that moves around them, and if they are hungry, they will snap it. And if
Could be
if
your own arm,
exactly, yeah,
could
and
be your
so
own
if
gills.
and if it's their arm, if they are young enough, they have card
Cartilaginous.
cartilaginous bones, and so it's really easy for it to like snap off. But because they're able to regenerate any organ and part of their body, they're able to do that about like 5 times in their lifespan, I believe.
It's one of our questions later on is
Yeah.
like can they just continuously regenerate? Hopefully the same limb isn't constantly being
5 times
removed.
Yeah.
But it's about 5 times.
It's about 5 times. In their lifespan, it is about 5 times. However, I mean, I'm pretty sure they could possibly do it as much as it requires for them, right? But it is about 5 times, and the most interesting part about this is the fact that they could also regrow parts of the brain, which is insane. I don't know how they would do that.
Yeah, you're like, do you remember the same
Yeah,
stuff,
like-
or is it gone?
Like, do they turn it off? Like, I have questions about that too. Like,
Yeah,
I
we
wonder
need to
if
talk
they.
to one.
Yeah,
we
I
She
want
does
to.
often.
I'll let you know later.
Okay,
Yeah.
to the bottom of this with
Yeah,
Darla.
exactly.
I think it's good information to know that axolotls are considered a restricted species here in California, and so all of the axolotls that we have are actually confiscations that were donated to us by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Essentially, what happens is people are excited to own axolotls, or they're breeding them, or they're selling them illegally here in California because they are a very popular item and people love
they
owning
are.
them. However, because of the risk for them to be released to their natural habitat, hybridize with our vulnerable California tiger salamander, and cause major issues for sort of the environment here, they are considered a restricted species, and you're not allowed to own them as a pet. And so when we say Nemo came in missing an arm, or some of these animals were in worse condition, for the most part, it's people either didn't know what they were doing, they got transported to us, their donations, and we don't have a lot of information on what their history looks like. So if you ever see axolotls at the aquarium, and we really would love to have wild type axolotls to talk about what they are and what they look like, but we've got pinks, we got yellows, we got all
it
kinds.
all. We
And
got
that's
it
just,
all.
we got donations because these animals needed a place to go, and Fish and Wildlife does not have an aquarium to hold these animals.
Yeah.
And so also for our geriatric animals that are maybe not going to be displayed again, whereas with some other animals, maybe we would retire them to other institutions or different parts of the aquarium. They are very difficult to move in and out of the state, and they basically have nowhere else to go here in California. So although they are living behind the scenes, and most of our animals we would never want to keep in a holding system indefinitely, we try to make that place as enriching and as beneficial for them,
possible,
so
yeah.
that they have a very good quality of life for the remainder of their life. And we are going to have our axolotls basically indefinitely because of all the restrictions around them. So we have a special permit to hold them. We are allowed to hold them, but we're not allowed to breed them.
Exactly.
We're not allowed to transport them, trade them, do all those things with them. But we get a lot of axolotls
so
donated.
many.
And they're not always in the best shape when they show up, and we have no idea what their history was.
Yeah.
So yeah, our GFP malinoid, that one that we were talking about with the green eyes, she is... Honestly, she looks pretty robust and healthy.
She does, but she also has like a really bad curve on her spine, and that has to do because of the space.
The
So I
size
believe they were
probably,
in
right?
like a 5 gallon, right?
Yeah, they were in
It
a
was like in a
really
really
small system.
small thing. So I mean, they could adjust to it, but that obviously brings up like deformities.
Yeah, of course.
And then it all comes down with like their diet again, like
Just the
making sure that
quality
they
of
are
care.
getting getting like the right food. And the one that really impacted me was we got a really skinny one, so skinny. He
It
had all
was
his gills and
Kind
everything.
of upsetting. Yeah, like
So
Yeah, well, I'm sure
upsetting.
it's up in rehabilitation and rescue, and when you're receiving confiscated animals,
it looks good now though.
But,
yeah,
oh
but-
yeah, he's getting all his curves.
they just need that. They just
Yeah.
need the America treatment.
Just needed some
And
worms.
Oh, trust me,
exactly.
yeah.
They
Those
just need some
butchered
worms.
worms.
I made sure that they're
They're getting the good stuff.
yeah, exactly.
But they're doing pretty good.
Another thing I wanted to say is it's an interesting fact. So you had mentioned the tiger salamander, and so the tiger salamander doesn't have any gills, right? It just has it's pretty much, it looks like an axolotl without
complete.
gills.
Yeah.
A terrestrial axolotl,
Yeah.
literally, with like really cool stripes. But with axolotls, one of the a really fun fact is if they are exposed to a chemical called iodine, they could actually become terrestrial and they lose all their gills. I feel like because they stay in this like jelly like form,
Yeah.
because like their skin obviously it's already so sensitive, right? But when they come out of the water, like they have this like shiny it's just so weird. It's like really, really weird. And so, yeah, that's a really interesting fact
So if
about
they're
them.
introduced to iodine, they lose their gills.
Yes.
Do they live a relatively normal lifespan after that? No.
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 They come out. They're not evolved to do
Yeah.
that, and so it takes some
Fascinating.
adjusting.
Uh-huh.
I'm in a bunch of weird Facebook groups, to be honest, but there's one that I'm in. People sometimes are like, "Hey, I have a morphed axolotl that was
wow.
neglected." It's not necessarily like iodine is a trigger for those hormones to kick start that metamorphosis, but also poor water quality. Their body will just be like, "Get out
Get
of
out
the
of here."
water." Yeah, I don't think it's good for them.
So
long
do
term.
they spend any time out of the water? No.
No.
Fully
Fully
water
aquatic
Yeah,
lives.
they if they do spend some time like out of the waters,
life.
because we are here in this institute, we have to make sure that they are safe enough for them to be placed with our other axolotls or amphibians. And one of the main things that they do get swapped from, like physically, like we actually have to get them from the water and really swap them, is for chytrid. And that's just like with what is like a cotton swab, right? Like it could just be like on their bodies, just so that we know
test.
that they're that they
So
are
brief.
safe.
You're just removing them
Exactly.
for a second.
Yeah, because chytrid is very, very dangerous, and I mean they are a donation, so we don't know where they're coming
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
and we have to make sure that they are safe
You
and
don't want to
clean.
introduce that to
Exactly.
your population. Very
So
cool.
very briefly, they are lifted from the water, swabbed, and then put back into the water.
Very,
but
very briefly.
They are very mad the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they're like
They don't
eels.
that.
Like I swear, they're,
They're
super
wiggly?
slimy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and then
I
they like
believe it.
flick their whole body.
They flick
oh
their
my god,
whole body. Yeah.
the emotion.
What
Of
is
it.
going on?
And there's only like a few that you'll just pick up and they're like, okay. Like they're so polite. Again, personality. They're just like, all right, I guess.
Who's the
you know.
polite one out of all of them? Sumpy.
Yes, Sumpy
Sumpy's
is
polite.
super polite, and she's like always up and alive and always kind of welcoming.
She's cute.
She's
too.
super cute.
We have Sumpy, Pinky, Floyd, and then it's Nemo, Darla. Then we have 3 juveniles that we have no names for yet, although I'm sure America does.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about their conservation? So we know that they are endangered. Is that right?
Yes, they are endangered. I mean, it just from what researchers have been updating, there's about 100 left, I believe.
No.
But there's
we
other
have
articles.
11.
Yeah, I know.
we have 11.
And we have 11. But there's other articles that specify that there's 50 to 1,000. It's around that, yeah. And that obviously has to do with, again, like, you know, the droughts, the contamination, climate change. Yeah, there's a lot of
Human
things that.
impact, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's so many things, because another thing. This is just like a fun fact. For Lake Xochimilco, it's well known for a tourist site. They do whatever they want, and so like beer spills, they have so many things. And so if you research that lake itself, you'll see like right off the bat what I'm talking about.
Is it being protected in any way? Is the government
Yes.
protecting the lake?
Yeah, there's well, I believe there's a connection with a university in Guadalajara that they believe that they're able to not necessarily like create a new population, but just see how these axolotls will thrive on another lake in Guadalajara.
Oh, okay.
It has the same thing. They have the same like temp on the water. It's a much cleaner lake as well, and it just like mimics the same thing as like Xochimilco, except it has no they're not worried about it being like having a drought, because there are sections there where water just keeps on flowing, and so that's a really, you know, it's
that'd
a
be
positive
huge,
thing.
yeah.
And so what they do is just they have these wild axolotls, they tag them, and then they release them, and they kind of just track it down, see how they're doing. So far there's been very positive things,
that's
but
great.
obviously this is not something that will be
Put all of them
yeah,
there,
exactly.
yeah.
Put all of them there. It's just something that I know that university is doing, and
That's
so far
really
it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
One thing about Mexico is that I know that they have different types of museums, because a lot of people do go to see if they're able to like find one itself, right? Like a wild one. They're not gonna find it. If they will, it's the thing about axolotls is that they're always hidden. Like
They're elusive.
they're just very to themselves. You know, they will always be in like the murky waters. And but one thing that Mexico does do is they make these museums that have genetically bred axolotls, and they're able to like showcase them,
So
and
you can come see an axolotl.
exactly, yeah. And it's great because that that funding goes to that, again, the wild
populations.
yeah, exactly, to
Very
like
cool.
be able to help all of that like research go in, again, like, you know, to other places, not only in Mexico. And so
Well, yeah, that's really cool that it fulfills the tourism side of it. It's like we know people are coming here to see axolotls. They're endangered in the wild. They're likely not going to see them, and if they are going to look for them, they might disrupt the habitat.
Yes.
Let's create a facility where you can come see the axolotls, learn all about them, probably learn about their how endangered
they are, yeah.
and just kind of leave with more knowledge and some ideas of how we could better take care of our planet.
Yeah,
for animals
exactly.
Like axolotls.
The great thing is that they're very popular, and so if we're able to, get the attention from not only like our audience, like our generation, but the younger generation.
Oh, we
it's
have
great.
their attention.
Yeah.
It's in a video game or something.
You know, it's in a Mexican bill, like a dollar, like a 50 peso
an
dollar bill.
axolotl?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, we have some social media questions.
Okay.
The first one is, can I have one? Not me, but a specific user asked, can I have an axolotl?
You can if you aren't here in California. So anything that is with an ambystoma species, so that has to do with the axolotl, with the tiger salamander, like any salamander in that sense, you won't be able to have it here. It is an invasive species, and it's very, very important to understand that. If eventually you do have one, or you find one in a really sketchy place, it's great to just kind of, make sure you call Fish and Wildlife and
I
other.
didn't realize it was the law exists because they are an invasive species and they would really affect the habitats here in California.
Yeah.
I think too it's to protect the species
Yeah,
from being
it's such a
collected as
delicate-
well. Like I think there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I think California is very strict with a lot of its wildlife laws, and there's a lot of animals you can't own in California that I think in other states you definitely there's no law about not owning a raccoon in some state. Like there's things like that where check your state specific legislation if you want to own an axolotl, or your country specific depending where you're listening.
But it's a lot of work, as we're talking about.
It is.
It's a huge amount of work. It's not similar, but also similar to people who always say they want a pet otter. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Poop everywhere. You don't want poop
So
everywhere.
much food, so much poop.
Oh, that's it. That goes with axolotls too.
It's true.
Axolotls
Really?
poop so much.
Aw.
Yeah. Another thing for axolotls is the temperature. So they do have to be in a cold temperature, right? Again, but if they do go a little bit higher than that, so maybe like, let's say your axolotl is in a 64. If you do a water change and it goes to like a 66 or maybe like a 67 and it stays there for a bit, they will get the urge to poop. So the warmer the temperature is, they know that it's time to poop.
Warms them up.
Yeah, they're like, it's time to let it rip. And
Yeah.
so they do indeed let it rip.
Well, so if you wanted an axolotl at home, that's just one aspect of their care is maintaining their temperature so that way they poop the correct amount and you're not constantly cleaning it up. So it sounds like not an ideal pet.
It's a hobby. It has to be a hobby if you really want these animals to be able to thrive upon, just because there's so many things that
It is not
go
an
into
easy-
it.
Not an easy pet.
I'm a huge proponent of responsible amphibian ownership, especially as a pet. Like if your animal is captive bred, not wild collected, does not have diseases that you're introducing, you're not releasing them, and they're kept in appropriate habitat, I think owning amphibians is a wonderful thing. Like, I am biased. I obviously have helped with the gallery renovation. I have frogs of my own. Like, I have frogs.
I know. I love that you
Oh,
take
I
care
have
of frogs
frogs.
here and then you go home and take care of
take
your
care of
frogs.
more
More
frogs.
frogs.
But I think that there's a way to do it right, and I think that these animals, especially amphibians in general, it's so much more about maintaining the integrity of their enclosure and their habitat and where they live, because they live in balance with everything that they do. And so if you have axolotls and they are in an appropriately sized, cold enough, clean enough, good water temperature, good water parameters, I am all about it, because people loving axolotls is what is going to drive people taking care of their natural habitat. And if all the things are met and the animals are happy, I don't take issue with it. Obviously, check to see if it's legal in your
Yeah, of
state.
course.
Don't have them here in California. But at the same time, like, that's cool. I think a lot of people just might not have the information there to do right by the axolotls that they might own.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of hobbyist information. Amphibian husbandry is coming so far,
Yeah.
but it is still a little lagging behind. Like, we really know how to take care of dogs and cats and things like that, but we don't necessarily always have all the information on amphibians. And so if you're doing your best and you have everything that makes those animals happy and their ecosystem or their environment is healthy and safe, I don't take issue with it. So yes, if it's legal,
If it's legal.
and
Yeah,
you
of
do
course.
it right.
Perfect. Do they burrow in the mud at the bottom of these lakes, or is there any? Are they a burrowing species? Would you say?
They will bury under rocks if there's mud there. Then yes,
But
but
they're not like burrowing
it's
and like
not.
sticking their gills out.
No,
to
It's
breathe.
not like
Okay.
yeah, they're not like mud skippers. You know, mud skippers
Yeah, I
usually are
think
like
probably that's what this
yeah.
person's thinking. Yeah.
No, they're not like that.
What other fish or creatures do they get along with? Any other species that they are able to be housed with?
Other axolotls, but specifically
That's it.
these guys are not social at
They're not
all.
friends.
They are not. Anything that moves, they will eat.
Food.
Yeah, so if you put them with any fish, those fish are going to become their little snack, and they are not really well with other animals. So if you want to put them with anything else, I would definitely suggest another axolotl that is about the same size
And same sex.
and same sex.
Really?
Yeah,
What is their reproduction like, and is there a difference between the male and female?
so it's their cloaca. Their cloaca on a male is much more enlarged. It's like a really big bump, and it's between like their tail and their stomach. And it's much more enlarged. You would definitely be able to see the difference
You
between
can
it.
tell by looking.
You could definitely
What's-
tell. Yeah, with a female, it's not as enlarged as a
kinda smooth.
yeah, and that would be the difference.
The males will drop a sperm packet if they know there's a female around and they're receptive to breeding. The female will actually go over and pick it up with her cloaca, and that's how their eggs are fertilized. And so that's actually weirdly common with salamander species is the sperm packet
They
behavior.
just kind of like, hey, this is here if you're interested.
If you're interested, here you go.
Yeah.
But I
That's
do
gonna be
think
over there.
they've got some like elaborate courtship ritual that they do first to sort of get in the sperm packet mood, and then I think it's like tails intertwining. They're sort of
Yeah.
like dancing.
They go in
together.
circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's cute.
dance.
We've never seen it here because we're not allowed to
Yeah.
breed them. But if you look it up, it is actually kind of cute to watch axolotls flirt with each other a little bit,
Aw.
and then 1,000 babies later. So
What's the gestation period?
it says 14 to 21 days as an egg before hatching, but it is
Wow.
temperature dependent. So similar to a lot of other animals, they will develop more rapidly if they're in warmer temperatures and a little bit more slowly if they're in
Does the
colder.
temperature of the water affect their sex?
I don't
they're
think
born
so.
as?
I don't think so either. I do know that juveniles or just like younger axolotls do have they have to be in a little bit warmer.
Helps their growth.
You know, yeah, it's something that if you keep the normal axolotls at a 64, you would probably want to keep it at a 66, no more or no less, just at that
Helps their
specific one.
growth
Yeah.
rate. Are they immortal? What's the average lifespan for we
they're
kind of
not
talked about that,
immortal.
but
America wishes.
I know, I
I
do.
know.
Sit around.
They do live up to, I believe it's 10 to 15 years, and it definitely changes because of like how well you're keeping up with them and stuff. But really well axolotl would definitely live up to 15 years.
got it. Yeah, I guess the thought is if they can regenerate, you know, their limbs, maybe they can
Yeah.
just continuously live forever, but that's not the case.
They
They're
regenerate their whole entire
eventually-
life.
Exactly. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Do they have ears?
They don't have ears.
ears.
I don't think they have ears.
They definitely sense
They
vibration.
sense, yeah, they're very, very
So
sensitive
their
to
eyesight
vibration.
isn't great, and they can sense the vibration. Is that kind of how they're sensing food in the water? Is through the vibrations of the?
They see like shadows, and so they're able to like pick up where it's like coming
eat
from, or
that.
if they see like I think I'm just assuming at this point, but I've seen them so much that I just came up with this assumption and this theory that I feel like they know exactly how this object looks, because when I feed these baby axolotls, I feed them with this blue little like tweezers looking, because they're very small, and they know exactly where to go. Like they don't go anywhere farther than you know, like to my hand or anything. They know exactly
They know
where,
where the food
that
is.
little thing is. Yeah,
Smart
and so
guys.
they might be able to see that.
Yeah.
I think they
Very
get
cool.
the gist of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah.
They're just
with-
trained for it. Yeah.
What about their migration patterns? You know, if they're doing any traveling. I mean, they're staying in that lake, right? They're not leaving the
Yeah.
lake. They're not
They're not.
unless
yeah,
something's
exactly.
introduced. Kind of talk about that.
The closest answer that I could possibly answer to that is is just if the currents are too strong, they would definitely migrate to somewhere where it's not. It is a water stream, so we don't know how water could, impact, water's moving all the time. So we don't know if it might be too strong of a current in this section where they were. So they'll just migrate to somewhere where it's more chill and more soft, because again, they are very, very sensitive to vibrations. So in this case, they don't like any sort of like really strong currents. They like a very still water, and if they do like some sort of currents, it's a very soft like
Just
drop,
a
like
little
it's
rush.
just a little rush, just a little bit.
Are there any studies being done for medical research for humans? The fact that they can regenerate parts of their brain, that would be awesome for us humans, or even our limbs. Is there any medical research being done?
There is medical research. We are far from like anything that comes out, but it's just interesting knowing that the study is like on a cellular level where like they want to see how their cells could interact with ours. But like I said, we're very far from that, and
Such
I know
different
that
creatures
so
too,
so different. Yeah, exactly. And I know that these guys are also 1,000 times, it's 1,000 times less susceptible to be able to get cancer.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's a great thing for them to be able to know that
Study and
and study,
understand
understand that. Yeah. And so if they're able to one day eventually like
isolate the reason that they can.
and maybe even like help humans out to do that, then that'll be amazing,
That's
you know.
really
But
cool.
I'm pretty sure we're very far from that.
Yeah.
I don't know how an axolotl could possibly, interact with my DNA, like their
Just
DNA
ask.
or my DNA.
She's hoping. She's like, how will it?
Can you please tell me now?
I'm trying to grow gills outside of my body.
Please, and thank you.
Something I was reading about kind of recently, because someone was asking me, like, how do they regrow their limbs? Is I guess with the axolotls, they actually have the same, it's like mRNA and RNA that helps create proteins. And it's the same thing that we have, but we only activate that if we have an excess of nutrients. And so think about like, if you're going to the gym and you're bulking up, you're going to create all that muscle and all that tissue when there is an excess of nutrients, and that is available for all of those proteins to be built. But for axolotls, trauma actually induces a flooding of all those nutrients to one spot, so that all of those cells can pull from that and create what they need, and they can regrow an entire limb in a matter of weeks without it being an issue at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Matter
that.
of,
How
like,
long
5
about
weeks.
does it take?
It's
Wow.
pretty
5
fast.
weeks.
Yeah.
And then with Nemo,
It's like if you get a bad cut, sometimes I'm like, it's still not,
You know what's really funny about that though? So axolotls, for like their fingers, right, that they have like about 5 or 4 maybe. Depending on like how they regrow it, sometimes they just regrow like 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of funny. But they regrow it. It's just different, but it's there.
I want to talk a little bit about the new gallery. I'm so excited. It's called Frogs
Facing a Changing World.
Facing a
Yes.
Changing World. Thank you. And you guys have been working tirelessly. I
don't know. I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
yes, tiredly, I guess. That's how I
Tiredly.
should probably say it. But it's been months in the making, and I'm really excited to see this new habitat. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect in this new gallery?
Yeah.
Axolotls. They're
Yeah.
going to be there?
Yeah, yes. Axolotls are going to be there. They have a really, really cool section. I really just want to make sure that you guys are so excited as much as I am. I see it every day and I'm still like, wow.
Yay.
It's just so amazing. You will be able to definitely know where the axolotls are now at the aquarium. You won't be able to miss it. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be axolotls. We do have our close neighbors, that's what we call them. So the ones that are here in California, or the ones that are close to California, they're all going to be all together. So you'll find those species all together. And then in our frog gallery, that's where we have
We've got a lot of stuff.
yeah, we have a
going on.
lot of stuff.
It looks beautiful already.
Gorgeous.
It's been probably 6-8 months in the making, and a lot of that is planning, and we couldn't close off the gallery until we were really ready to start building.
Yeah, it's
so that
the
we weren't-
middle of a gallery. Yeah.
It's at an inconvenient place to be closed, and I apologize to all the guests who have had to be detoured around
It'll
the
be worth
tropical.
the wait.
But just to sort of highlight the tropical amphibians, we have that entire section of the Tropical Pacific Gallery highlighting different animals that you would find in tropical regions. And so we have amphibians from everywhere from like Madagascar to Vietnam to like Costa Rica, and a bunch of different species. Some of them are familiar, some of them are new. And something I'm really excited about is sort of highlighting sustainability in amphibian keeping. Like I said, I think people should own frogs if they do it right and it's, responsibly collected and all those things. And something that is a major cause of decline for amphibians in general is collection for the pet trade. And when you have a lot of really cool, colorful frogs out in the wild that just sit out in the open because nothing is threatening them because they're poisonous, people can just go and pick them up and then they sell them, and that becomes a huge issue. And that's actually why golden mantellas are critically endangered because they are so poisonous that they just sit outside and they're like, nothing's gonna eat.
Nothing.
It's
You
gonna
come and
be.
get me if you want.
Yeah, and then they did, and that was the
Yeah.
problem. So
Oh,
similar for Kaiser newts, once a year they will go all breed in the same stream, and they're just out and about because they're doing breeding stuff. And so people have learned the habits of these animals and when to collect them. That's easiest for people, but unfortunately that leaves them pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
All that to say is that in the gallery we have what's called the Frog Nursery, and it is an area sort of meant to highlight sustainability in breeding and keeping amphibians. One of my favorite things about amphibians, this is going to sound weird, is that they all require very specific environmental cues to get them in a reproductive mood. And it's really hard to know those things until you've tried and tested a couple of different things.
Yes, we have tried a couple of things. We put
We've
mood
been
lighting.
changing the lighting. And genuinely, as much as it sounds crazy, sometimes it's a matter of lighting
it
change.
is.
You know, like that will do it. And so,
Yeah.
like, California newts are a great example where people have had almost difficult time breeding them under human care because they require a period of migration. And you can't obviously migrate a newt from its system to another system and have it feel like it walked miles. But sometimes, I guess what they had discovered is they could create sort of an elaborate series of almost like hamster tubes to get a newt to walk what it felt like was miles and be like, whoa, I don't know where I am. And even if it ended up back in its own exhibit, it was like, yeah, I'm ready. That can be enough to trigger those hormones to cause them to breed. And so finding ways to get these sort of rarer or less kept amphibians to breed under human care means that we are not collecting as many from the wild, that we are helping to support sort of the population under human care and showcase them at zoos and aquaria in a very responsible way. And I am very excited about that. And also, they're doing really cute stuff in there. Just yesterday, one of our frogs was carrying a tadpole around, and I was like, ooh, it's pretty
They
exciting.
knew. They knew what they were
ready.
doing. They
They're
were like, "Oh,
ready.
you guys are about to open? Okay, actually,
Yeah.
let me go get my baby."
Let me just put them right on my back here. So
I got you. I
it's
got
been
you.
cool.
That's so cool. You guys, I'm so excited to see it.
Very excited.
One more question for you, America.
Yeah.
What do you love about taking care of axolotls, or what do you love most about axolotls?
Pick one.
So man, there's so many things, but I think it has to do with, well, just one, being able to interact with not only the animals but also the people. All these little kids, they just come up and just ask like, "Hey, where are the axolotls?" or "Hey, where are the lotls?" You know, they can't even say it that like properly, but it's just so cute, and it really warms my heart to be able to educate them and then also educate their parents. My favorite part of it, just in general, is just being able to spend every day with the axolotls and making sure that they're okay, getting to know them and their personality, and honestly, like educating or just kind of being able to show the passion that I have, not only to the people that ask me, but also like to my staff members, and you know, just being able to learn every day, because these guys are so different. Every day, honestly, you don't know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you'll get like a axolotl that's just kind of in his little
Sassier
cave,
day.
and then and then like another day he's just like sassy, and then the other day it's just like he's just funny. I mean, it's just it's crazy to see it, and it's better to explain it when you're in person. But yeah, that's
so come
exactly.
see
Yeah.
and talk to America all about axolotls
Please.
anytime.
Yes,
say,
I
"Yep, I'm
will.
here."
I'm here. Yeah, I will definitely talk your ear off.
Cool. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you for being on our
thank you.
podcast.
Of course.